Okay, I'm going to read to you now something I found online called The Nature of Personal Reality, which sounds a whole lot like something by Seth called The Nature of Personal Reality, but this is not what this is. This is a channeling session, 2 or 3 of them, and they were typed up and put here on a website that I can no longer find. And I really wish I could, because there's some really good information that is given here. And the channeled person is called Lodge. And so when I read this, you'll realize it's a channeling session, and it stops and begins again, and they're talk to the students and different ones. So do know that is part of this. But this is something that addresses the nature of personal reality as it is understood in the law of attraction. So many people think, we create our reality, and we do, but there's other factors to consider, and they talk about that here. So I'm just going to begin, because I can talk about it, but it reads better than I can talk about it. So I will begin. I think you're going to like this. Lodge here. Tonight we shall discuss a bit on the nature of reality. The nature of personal reality is an issue that is easily confused on the physical plane. An important point to remember is that you do create your own reality. However, the variable that is left out all too often is that numerous individual realities overlap to various degrees. Thus, components of other people's realities affect your own. It is a factor that is important in structuring outcomes as you would have them. You cannot ignore the reality of others because it does affect you. Each individual entity emits energy. These energy patterns interact. In the past, in other cultures, certain individuals decided they would have a greater control of their realities by isolating themselves from their brethren. In this sense, they were controlling the physical influences of others. However, you must remember that the physical plane is the bottom level of reality, and it is affected by the planes above it, obviously, the astral and the mental levels, which are the two closest, have the strongest impact. And there are beings that dwell at these levels that also intersect with our personal realities. And they too become variables that must be considered in the structuring of your own personal reality. Denying their existence, ignoring them, will not make them go away and will not dampen their influence, because the energies are there and they affect you. Just like, for example, we could deny that the moon exists, and yet the gravitational pull, the magnetic influences, would still be a factor. We could go and live in a cave somewhere and never see it, and yet the moon, the physical body, would influence our reality. The thoughts of others impact upon us. They are also energy. They are incorporated in our individual reality. And it's the joining and configuration of thoughts that create the overall reality and serves as the cement that holds together this plane. It's said that you can't get vast number of people to work together, and yet that is the one factor that all of humanity has. They all agree that reality, physical reality, exists, and thus it is. The trick is to get them thinking in other directions, because the reality that is usually created is one that is more motivated by the regressive portions of the mind. And so, in looking at the total picture of reality, you have 3 points of definition. You have your neutral point, you have your positive point, you have your negative point. These portions are replicated in nature. You have your darkness and you have your light. You have your male and you have your female. And you have your ground, your firmament, if you will. And so, due to the nature of polarities and your balances in the system, the concept of good and evil does apply. but only in the sense of evolution versus involution. And trying to ignore one or the other does not work. One is kidding themselves here on the physical plane when that is attempted. We cannot wish away the negative forces, just as we have no desire to wish away the positive ones. We cannot wish away the darkness to have perpetual light. Each phase has its necessary role in physical reality. And as long as mind is within a body, the forces will apply. We do not have to augment the negative side. But denying its reality will not make it go away. We cannot stand in front of a moving vehicle and expect it to pass through us or we through it unscathed, because that vehicle is part of someone else's reality, and that energy form intersects our energy form with dire consequences. 'Tis true that reality is an illusion, but how can you get all portions of your mind to totally believe it for any great length of time? Takes a great deal of willpower and effort to overcome it. And just saying that you believe does not necessarily make it so. To truly believe it is to transcend physical reality. But it takes more than simply saying that you believe it for it to be so. It takes more than saying that the negative forces do not exist, because they intersect your reality nonetheless. Now, it is important to rebuild your belief structures, and that is what many of you have been working on, the rebuilding of the belief structures. And yet, I cannot help but emphasize that other beliefs affect you and can impede your progress. And this applies not only to people around you, but to non-physicals as well. And on the lower levels, there are numerous entities that have regressive beliefs, and they surround people and pump them into their system. And so you can be sabotaged not only by your own system, but that from other sources as well. And it is important to keep this in mind. No one can go onto a hilltop and isolate themselves and transcend the physical plane, because the physical plane and the astral plane and the mental plane is in truth what must be transcended. And physically isolating yourself only takes care of one segment. The other segments intersect you and are always with you. Denial does not change that reality. So, in summary for this evening, there are three conditions to reality: the positive and the negative and the neutral. You do create your own reality, but that really is intersected not only from the physical plane but from the non-physical levels, primarily the astral and the mental levels. It is these variables that affect your reality. You must take all of these factors into consideration before you can successfully control the outcome. You must have harmony on all the lower planes and generate a field of harmony around yourself to successfully say you are in control of your reality. This is why, as an example, that the most skeptical, or I should say closed-minded individuals never have transcendental experiences of their own, and cause people who are capable of such experiences to have poor results. They send the energy that disrupts or interferes with the intended outcome. And as your sensitives send the energy, wait a minute, I lost my place. And as your sensitives grow, you will become more aware of these individuals, and occasionally you will find one of your own enveloped in a cloud of this negative energy, or a representative of negative entities from the astral, and to a degree the mental level. And in many instances they will not be aware of it, and it is your responsibility to point it out to them so they can take the necessary measures to eliminate the interference and the hindrance. Otherwise, such disruption can ride into a closed sphere such as this and cause unnecessary disruption. It is important to expand your view of reality to include that of others, and That is an important key to success in transcending the physical plane. You cannot look upon yourself as an ego sphere. You must take an allocentric viewpoint. That includes other spheres of reality or other individuals' realities and their dynamic effect upon your own. This from a physical as well as a non-physical basis. Contemplate the issue. Formulate any questions that you may have, and if you have such questions and you would like them answered, record them in some manner and make your intent known. Discuss them among yourselves, and if the issue is not resolved to your satisfaction, you can put in a request, and I or one of my colleagues will come and answer them from our perspective. And thus that ends the very first channeling session of this that I'm reading.